You know what's cool? Being fast. You know what's even cooler? Being the fastest. Since the beginning of time, people have tried to go as fast as possible. And in 1953, the fastest person on Earth, literally the fastest human in history, was a dude named Scott Crossfield. Scott was a test pilot. Already, pretty cool job. Hard to find a test pilot who you wouldn't say is cool. Hey, what does your stepdad do? Oh, he's a paralegal. What does your stepdad do? Oh, he's a test pilot. Yeah, dude. Scott's specialty was even cooler, experimental rocket planes. Think airplanes are cool? How about freaking rocket planes? They had names like Sky Streak, Skyrocket, and Super Saber that goes a bajillion miles an hour. This dude's best known for testing the X-15, the fastest airplane ever made. Imagine sitting on top of 18,000 pounds of highly compressed, highly combustible fuel, and your job is to check if that flying bomb can survive at several times the speed of sound. Crossfield did that more times than anybody in history. He was part of America's Man in Space Soonest project. That's literally what it was called. What should we call this? Well, what are we trying to do? Well, we're trying to get a man in space the soonest. I think you got it. I think we can go to lunch. Man in Space Soonest, or MISS, was the precursor to NASA's human spaceflight effort. Back in those times, rocket planes were supposed to be the future of space travel. Essentially, space planes. Planes that you could fly to space and then fly back down. We later did that with the shuttle, and then we got rid of it for some reason. Thanks, Obama. On November 20th, 1953, Crossfield made a flight to see how fast a Douglas D-558-2 skyrocket could go. So the Douglas was only designed to do Mach 1.5, but engineers thought that Mach 2 might be possible. The plane was obsessively prepped, cleaned, waxed, sealed to reduce drag. They're making it slipperier to cut through the air faster. The fuel and the fuel tank were chilled. Everything they could do on the ground was done. But you don't break records on the ground, do you? You break them in the sky. So it would take perfect flying by my boy Scott to get this bird to twice the speed of sound. A B-29 bomber carried the skyrocket to 35,000 feet before dropping it. Crossfield fell 400 feet while waiting for the rocket engine to ignite. All part of the plan. He climbed to 72,178 feet and dove. Only from that height, with the help of gravity and thinner air, could the chilled fuel's extra thrust push the plane past Mach 2. The engine quit at 62,000 feet, and Crossfield registered Mach 2.005. He pulled out, did a celebratory barrel roll, and landed 12 minutes after launch. It's like, dude, you just went twice the speed of sound. Cool, look at this! In total, Crossfield flew 113 rocket-powered flights. He survived power failures, crash landings, even engine explosions. He didn't care about records. He cared about the work. He's quoted as saying, "I'm an aeronautical engineer, an aerodynamicist, and a designer. My flying was only because I felt it was essential to designing and building better airplanes." Yo! Scott Crossfield showed that cool doesn't always look like swagger and bravado. Sometimes it looks like methodical preparation, quiet confidence, and betting your life on your own math. There are few words that I have said on this channel more often than the word cool. 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 Cool can mean stylish. Cool can mean fast. Cool can mean well built. Cool can mean stupid. Cool can mean being nice to other people. There's no one definition of cool. And that in and of itself is pretty f***ing cool. There's a lot of cool guys out there, but these guys, in my opinion, are 5 of the coolest guys who ever lived. The next 4 people on this list each embody a totally different definition of cool because there is no one way to be cool. And trying to put things in a box, well, that ain't cool, Jack. Larry Tesler. When you think about tech innovators who changed the world, they're very rich and very loud, and they don't seem to care about other people. But behind those guys are thousands of other innovators who don't shout, and you've probably never heard of. And some of them have changed the world in ways that impact people's lives so fundamentally that, like, you don't even think that a guy made that up. Like, it's such a natural part of the way that we live. It's like a realization that somebody had to do it, you know? Larry Tesler is one of those people. So Larry Tesler was a computer scientist who started at the Stanford AI lab in the 1960s. And he realized pretty early that AI in the 1960s didn't have a lot going on. So he turned his attention to something more immediately impactful, making computers usable for ordinary people like you or me. In the 60s, computers were still like exotic AF. They took up entire rooms. I think you had to like print out a bunch of parking tickets looking things and read them. You used like Scantron sheets and like hole punches and then like put them in a machine and it would go beep, 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 and then like a guy like the guy from The Simpsons would be like, oh, eureka. That's what computers were like back then. Larry was a visionary. Larry saw what it could be. Larry thought, hey, these big old things, I think everybody would like them. And everyone was like, F you, Larry, dumbass, nerd. Oh yeah, like normal people are gonna use computers. Yeah, right, Larry. Computers were millions of dollars. And the idea of them either being simple enough for the public to learn how to use, and the idea of the public wanting to learn how to use them was so far out of the realm of possibilities that people weren't even trying to make personal computers, which is crazy because I got a real powerful computer in my pocket and it's literally ruined my life. Thanks, Larry. So Larry joined Xerox PARC, the legendary lab that invented the mouse, graphical interfaces, Windows with a lowercase w, just like the idea, like things being in a window. One time a salesperson complained that Xerox software was, quote, unfriendly, and Tesler was like, oh, interesting. Dude had a breakthrough. Like I said, no one had even considered that computers could be friendly. So Larry made up a term. Perhaps you've heard of it. User-friendly. And he made this his mission. He worked on the first graphical word processor, enabling users to see text on screen exactly how it would print. What you see is what you get. He also came up with cut, copy, and paste. A dude had to look at computers and be like, what if it did this? And then figure out how to do it with a bunch of ones and zeros. The original tech bro, Steve Jobs, recognized his talent and recruited him to Apple. And it's there that Tesler helped develop the Lisa and early Macs. He also worked on a rugged touchscreen computer for none other than Coco the gorilla. Now, a lot of you guys might be too young to know who Coco the gorilla is, but when I was a kid, she was famous. She's a gorilla that knew sign language, dude. Larry also helped develop the first browser-like navigation tool and co-created the first portable computer. Both things that you're probably literally on right now. I mean, dude, look at this guy's resume. His list of accomplishments. All these things are not only things that like you've definitely heard of, they're things that you use like every single day. But you don't know who this dude is. And that's because Tesler didn't care about headlines. He wanted technology to serve humans, not replace them. The modern tech world chases buzzwords like AI,
artificial intelligence, AI.
Tesler believed in making everyday things work better. That's a different kind of cool. Humble, helpful, human-focused. That's what Triple H stands for. The wrestler. Bet you didn't know that. Humble, helpful, human focus. Before I get too far into our list, I just want to point out that all of these guys all rocked some pretty serious fits. From humble and simple to classic and formal to rugged and utilitarian. None of these guys were just moseying around in basketball shorts and stained t-shirts. The only people who can pull that off are Adam Sandler and Billie Eilish. These guys were dressed to get stuff done. They looked the part. And if you want to dress like you get stuff done, you should check out Huckberry. They're a one-stop shop for men's clothing and gear. Jackets, button-downs, pants, denim, boots, belts, watches, hats, literally tons more stuff. They got bags. They've got everything that a cool guy could need. And this season, they're doing a special Nashville collection. That's in Tennessee. I wear Huckberry all the time. When I'm looking good on camera, there is a pretty good chance that something I'm wearing is from Huckberry. Right now, I am wearing this Flint and Tinder classic linen shirt. Looks good. It'll last forever. Also, my shorts are from Huckberry. Also, my belt is from Huckberry. Also, my underwear are from Huckberry. When we started covering clothing brands on this channel, we immediately reached out to Huckberry to see if they would be down to work with us. And guess what, guys? They said yes. We like them. They're really fun to work with. They're chill. They get it. They sell really cool stuff. And low-key, their YouTube channel bangs. They didn't ask us to say this, but go check out their YouTube channel and maybe give them a subscribe. But definitely check out huckberry.com or click the link in the description. Check out some duds that'll let the world know that you are a cool guy. And now, on to our next cool guy. Sometimes you need to do things not for attention, but because it needs to be done. Cool can be quiet. It can look like choosing the hardest road just because nobody's chosen that specific road yet. And somebody very wise once told me, when you get to a fork in the road, take it. Fridtjof Nansen was the kind of guy who makes other overachievers feel like absolute pieces of crap because they're lazy and they don't achieve enough. This guy is like who the most interesting man in the world was based on. In the late 1800s, most of the world's big maps still had big old honking blank spots on them. And Fridtjof was like, yo, I think I'm going to fill this bitch in. So in 1888, he convinced 5 of his buddies to ski across the uninhabited ice cap of Greenland, something that no one had ever done. To make it even harder, he was like, no dogs, no backup plan, just 6 guys hauling 500-pound sledges through hurricane winds and minus 40-degree cold. They made it across in 49 days, arriving with no food left and just enough energy to high-five 3 times and fall asleep. Then, a few years later, he built a custom ship. He called it the Fram and purposefully froze it in the Arctic Ocean because his plan was, okay, I'm going to freeze this ship in the ocean so it's surrounded by an iceberg so that the iceberg will float me and my boat over the North Pole. Duh. It didn't work. It didn't go far enough north. So when it didn't work, Nansen was like, YOLO, dude. So he ditched his ship and started skiing off, like cross-country skiing, with one companion. 3 sledges and a team of dogs across floating, cracking ice floes. They fought off polar bears. They used walrus blubber as stove fuel. At one point, Nansen's watch froze and stopped working, which is like bad because back then you used time in the sun to navigate. So he just guessed what time it was every day and recalculated latitude by hand. Modern man could never, dude. Nansen survived by building a hut out of driftwood, moss, and seal fat. Dude's just like murking Arctic dogs. Just like, what's in the stove? Walrus fat. What's the house made out of? Seal fat. And they did this for months waiting for the sea ice to shift. And when they finally moved again, they bumped into a British expedition by complete accident. 600 miles from where they'd started. That's like the difference between LA and Albuquerque. Very specific. To put that into context that every single one of you would understand, that's like going from Mobile, Alabama to Beckley, West Virginia. Far, right? Yeah, but not far enough for Nansen, because after that, he became a diplomat. Yeah, a guy who goes to other countries, talking about other countries, trying to build friendships between countries. And he wasn't just like a today's diplomat, you know? He wasn't just like a guy who frequented Mar-a-Lago. After World War I, he negotiated the return of 430,000 prisoners of war and created the Nansen Passport, an ID for stateless refugees. It helped thousands of people find safety and earned him a Nobel Peace Prize. And then what did he do? He gave the prize money away. Like, come on, Nansen. Save some cool for the rest of us, pal. That is a very different kind of cool. Not loud, not chaotic, just relentlessly useful. The kind of guy who picked the hardest possible problem and then was like, yo, I solved it. Nansen was a hero, but this next guy is one of my heroes, and that's because he's such a villain. Smokey Yunick. You know what is really, really cool? Getting away with it. But only if the thing that you're getting away with isn't fucked up and it doesn't like hurt people. Like if it's fun. If you do a fun thing that's kind of stupid, then you get away with it. And a perfect example of that kind of it is bending the rules so hard that the rules bend back. Smokey Yunick is an absolute legend in stock car racing. I've told a lot of stories about automotive history, and this is the one dude who I'm like, can we get the rights to his story? Because I would love to make a TV show about him starring Walton Goggins. All right, so for the rest of this story, just imagine Walton Goggins playing Smokey Yunick. Legend in stock car racing, and the dude wasn't even a driver. He only drove it in one NASCAR race, which is, to be fair, more than me. Smokey was a legend because of what he built. At a time when everyone in NASCAR broke rules, Smokey broke the rule book. He was a racing engineer like no other, and he never even finished high school. Young Henry Yunick left school early to help on his family's farm, and that gave him the chance to start tinkering. At age 12, that's how fucking early the dude left school. Like, not like, oh, I'm 17. I don't think I'm going to, like, finish or whatever. It's like, nah, dude, I know everything. I'm 11. At age 12, frustrated with the farm's plow horse, he decided to replace the beast and build a tractor from the remains of a junk Dodge and a Model T truck. Just casual 12-year-old dropout stuff. 12 years old, I'm replacing animals with contraptions. Now, 15, his dad died, and he took a job at a mechanic shop to support his family. And that's where he discovered motorcycles and racing. He wasn't great at tuning engines yet, and his bike smoked so badly that he got the nickname Smokey. Then World War II happened, and Smokey joined the Army Air Corps, hoping to fly B-17s. Now, on a training mission over Daytona Beach, Florida, he saw the coastline, and he said to himself, you know what? I want to live there one day. Now, a bunch of very character-building stuff happened when he was in the war. I don't have time to get into it in this video. One was he apparently shaved his entire body other than a huge beard. So he's looking like Shel Silverstein. So many people were like, that's funny, dude. That almost 100 years later, I know that. And now so do you. That's awesome. After the war, he was back in New Jersey, freezing in a garage with a boss who wouldn't shut the damn door, literally. And Smokey hated two things, okay? Being cold and being told what to do. So he quit, drove to Florida, and opened his own shop. He called it the
best damn garage in town.
Hell yeah, Smokey. As a guy who loves branding, that's some pretty freaking solid branding, especially in the freaking 40s, dude. Best damn garage in town. And he couldn't have picked a better time, because NASCAR's first race ever was in 1948. Right there in Daytona. And Smokey got involved immediately. But NASCAR, as the rule-making authority, Racing wasn't exactly Smokey's vibe. Smokey loved racing. He hated being told what he could and couldn't race. And while everyone else was cheating, Smokey started studying the rule book. Because what the rule book doesn't say is just as important as what it does say. NASCAR limited fuel tank size. So, Smokey ran the legal tank, but replaced the fuel lines with 11-foot long, 2-inch wide coils that held an extra 5 gallons. Legal? Technically, yes, because the rules didn't say anything about that. If you show me in this book where it says I can't have 11-foot long, 2-inch wide coils of fuel lines, I'll take him out. On another occasion, Smokey showed up to qualifying with unmodified fenders on his car. Now, most teams cut away some of the heavy sheet metal to save weight, and the rules said that you could, but Smokey figured out that unmodified fenders were more aerodynamic, i.e. better for qualifying. Now, when he out-qualified the rest of the field, other teams complained. Smokey simply reminded them that the rules say you may modify them, not that you have to. But once qualifying was finished, he immediately started cutting away the fenders. The other teams were like, what the hell? What are you doing? You should make a big old stink about that. And Smokey once again pointed out that they don't say when you can modify them either. Now, one of the most famous and absolutely hilarious things that this dude has ever done. I love a joke that takes a lot of effort. Some people deny that this is true, but I choose to believe it. The dude built a 7/8 scale car. NASCAR rules said that your car had to use the body and frame of a stock car, hence the name of the sport, stock car racing. Something that you could buy off of a showroom floor. Smokey turned up to a race with a Chevelle that was somehow different from the normal car. But nobody could quite put a finger on what exactly was different about it. It is different though, right? Yeah, it looks different. The legend says that Smokey rebuilt an entire Chevelle just a little bit smaller. What he actually did took a lot more thought. He moved the body back 3 inches on the frame for better weight distribution. He raised and smoothed the floor, lowered the roof, and made the bumpers and fenders sit flush with the rest of the body for better aerodynamics. The effect was a car that looked mostly like an ordinary Chevelle, so much like an ordinary Chevelle that it passed tech inspection, but outperformed every other car. 7/8 Chevelle is the reason that NASCAR now checks every car with a template to make sure that they actually have the proportions of a stock car. During tech, they will literally hold like a jig up on top of the car. It's a physical frame thing. Smokey's the reason they do that. And the legend says that he actually built 2 because when people noticed that it looked different but they couldn't tell why, he was like, all right, go find one out in the parking lot and we'll compare them. But he had built a second one and parked it in the front row at the stadium. So when they went out, they were like, okay, we found one. He's like, all right, line them up, compare them. Then they were exactly the same. That's the reality I choose to believe. And that was the Smokey cycle, dude. Innovation, domination, regulation. NASCAR founder Bill France hated him. Despite 57 wins and 2 championships as a crew chief, Smokey's never even been nominated for the NASCAR Hall of Fame. He once threw a hammer at Bill France's head. Now, Smokey probably wouldn't want to be in the NASCAR Hall of Fame, or at least he would tell you that he wouldn't want to be. But he is one of the most entertaining characters in all of automotive history. And I've told a lot of stories about automotive history. So right here, today, on the Speeed YouTube channel, I'm going to start my campaign to get Smokey Yunick in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. If you believe that a colorful character like Smokey belongs in the Hall of Fame, a place that could use some colorful characters, I'm just saying. And if you support this cause, we're going to put it on GARM. Go to speed.co, get your official Smokey Yunick t-shirt to show Bill France's family, who still own NASCAR, that we mean business. So go get one. And if you want to dress like Smokey, absolutely classic Americana badass, go to Huckberry. Dude, I'm stoked about this one. Get Smokey in the Hall of Fame. This is why we do it, ladies and gentlemen. This is why we're here. Justice. Now, Smokey's kind of cool wasn't polite or safe. It was mischievous, but it was principled. It was rebel engineer energy. Actual cool rebel engineer energy. And the last cool person on our list couldn't be more different than Smokey. Probably doesn't immediately register as a rebel, but I promise you he very much is. He is definitely 100% one of the coolest guys who has ever lived. Most people think of Mr. Rogers as gentle, wholesome, soft. But I want to tell you right now, gentleness is not weakness. And in Fred Rogers' case, it was discipline, a lifelong commitment to kindness on purpose and against the odds. Kindness when it wasn't easy to be kind. Because young Fred Rogers had every reason to not turn out that way. He was shy, asthmatic, overweight. I was all three of those things. He was bullied by kids who called him Fat Freddy. Yeah, they called me Plump Free. He was lonely out in the world, but at home, he escaped into imaginary worlds with his adopted sister, Elaine, using puppets and a ventriloquist dummy to make sense of the chaos around him. Through storytelling and play, Fred began to process the hardest parts of his own childhood and started to understand the quiet power of making somebody feel seen. Now, he originally planned to become a minister after college, but then he saw television for the first time, and he hated it. This was a very powerful medium. This is a world-changing piece of technology. But when he watched it, people were just like throwing pies at each other and kissing and stuff. Now, those things are fine and cool, but why wasn't it being used to help people? Why wasn't it being used to nurture? Fred saw what TV could be, and he decided to make it that. Unlike most people who get into TV, Rogers had no desire to be on camera. For years, he worked behind the scenes, developing children's shows hosted by other people, building sets, writing stories, composing songs, creating characters. Many of those characters were tributes to people who had shaped his own life. Queen Sarah Saturday was named for his wife. Lady Elaine Fairchild, named after his adopted sister, Elaine. And Daniel, the striped tiger, is named after Dorothy Daniel, the station manager who gave him his first big chance. He might have remained behind the scenes for the rest of his career, but in 1963, the head of children's programming at the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation asked Rogers to come to Toronto and create a new show. And he told him, "Hey, sorry, Fred, I've seen you talk to kids, eh? Let's put you on the air." That show was Mr. Rogers, all one word, which is straight up badass. During its 4-year run, Fred Rogers developed the foundation for the show that we all know, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. That show launched in 1968 when he returned to Pittsburgh. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood lasted for 895 episodes, was broadcast on 384 stations, and watched in 1.8 million homes regularly. Every episode opens on a model neighborhood. The theme song plays. The camera zooms into Mr. Rogers' house. Cut to the interior. Mr. Rogers enters, singing the famous song. Changes from his jacket to a sweater. Changes his shoes and introduces the theme of the episode. In its 32-year run, Rogers never changed the style or the format of the show. It was slow, calm, and quiet. It's iconic. You know how many times I've done the change my shirt and shoes bit in YouTube videos? Like a dozen. It's Jesse's favorite thing. He always pitches it. He's like, "Do you want to do the Mr. Rogers thing?" And most of the time I'm like, yeah. Other children's shows were constantly changing and updating, moving with the times, trying to be exciting or to hold children's attention. Something that ended up being really bad and really damaging. Trying to capture children's attention is like one of the worst things that's ever happened in modern history. Rogers insisted that his show should be consistent and stable because that was necessary to fulfill his mission, supporting young children's emotional and social development. Other shows like Sesame Street which is also great, focused on what preschoolers needed to succeed in school, like learning the alphabet or counting. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood focused on children's emotional and social needs. He helped kids understand their feelings. He helped them understand the feelings of others. And he helped them develop a sense of what is right and what's wrong. Something that I think a lot of adults could relearn. He wasn't trying to help kids succeed in school. He was trying to help them grow into healthy, happy people. And so he treated them like they were people. He understood the weight of that mission. And because of that, he didn't shy away from serious issues. He talked about things like the death of a family pet, divorce.
My mom and dad got a divorce, and I don't think they love each other anymore. But I know my daddy loves me, and my mommy loves me too.
He even dealt with the Kennedy assassination. The mission of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was deeply personal. He wrote and edited every episode. He played piano and sang nearly 200 original songs. He created every character and even played most of the puppets himself. And he still found time to reply to every fan letter that he ever received, except for one. Where's my letter? Where's my letter, Fred? JK. Mr. Rogers was famously asked to speak before a Senate subcommittee that was considering cutting PBS funding. He shared his views on television's value, especially for children's development. He spoke for just 7 minutes, and during that, he recited lyrics from his song, "What do you do with the mad that you feel?" Rogers' profound ability to communicate emotional significance caused the chair of that committee to break down in tears. And instead of cutting PBS funding, they increased it. When Rogers stepped in front of the camera, he knew that he was fulfilling a sacred duty to children, to people, to everybody who watched this show. He called the space between the viewer and the television holy ground because he saw the power that TV and things like TV had over people and that it could be used for good. And it often isn't. Fred Rogers really was Mr. Rogers. He was authentic. He was never jaded, never cynical, always kind. And he had the strength to live his entire life that way. And that is just about the coolest thing that anyone's ever done. My hero, Mr. Rogers. Thanks for watching this video. This is 5 cool guys, but it's not the only 5 cool guys. There's hundreds, thousands, millions of cool guys who have lived, and I would love to continue this as sort of a format that we do, like telling smaller stories and celebrating people who aren't normally celebrated. So if you have a cool guy or gal that you would like us to learn about and teach other people about, let me know down in the comments. Join the Discord. Maybe we'll make a Cool Guys from History channel. If you aren't a member of the Legion of Speed, it's getting pretty good. We got quite a few members. We're getting close to 1,000 members of the membership program. One of the perks you get from that is a members only podcast. Me, Jesse, Zach. I think we have some guests on the horizon. Talk about cars, technology, life, everything that's going on behind the scenes at Speed. It's super fun. My mom listens to it. All right. I love you.